Hello, hello. This is Emily Kate here at Conscious Conversations. Just gonna hold tight, say hello for jumping on. I don't have my phone on me, so I don't even know where my phone is. If you're jumping on, this week I want to talk about consciousness expanding on the planet, which is something that probably most people, well, maybe some people, are going to be like, what the fuck is she talking about? So, if you're jumping on, maybe drop down in the comments below because I can't see you. Hi, Jess. How you going? My housemate who's downstairs about to rescue my dinner from the oven. She put a timer on. Oh, isn't she the best? She is the best. So tonight is about expanding consciousness on the planet. I don't know about you, but even that statement is like, what does that even mean? Hey, beautiful Nicole. Lovely to see you. Expanding consciousness. Well, let's start. What's for dinner? Salad and pie. I don't usually eat pie, but I just wanted a pie. Sky, you're free to jump on with me. You have the link, so if you want to jump on and join the discussion, more than welcome to. Otherwise, I am just going to share what I just love sharing. So I'm just going to share, and I'm just going to discuss with myself and anyone that's commenting. I'm just really going to put a discussion out there about what does consciousness actually, what is it to you? What do you know about it? What do you know about your own self-awareness? And I think the salad is dead. Was that meant to be in the oven? No. Oh, you're funny. This is an important topic to me because there's something that I have been in training for the last 8 years. Been in training for the last 8 years. And I've really been at work on discovering and just noticing my own thoughts, my own beliefs, my own conditioning, my own patterns, and really challenging the status quo on, why things are the way that they are, why they aren't the way that they are sometimes, and, even my own shoulds in life. This shouldn't be this way, this should be this way. So this is something that I wouldn't say that it's something that I have always been passionate about. It's so confronting. If you're anyone on this discovery for yourself, you'll notice that the confront in being able to be someone who really reflects on your own behavior, it can become like an identity crisis. And in sharing, that's something that I have just really been bumping up against in the last couple of weeks, right? Is this identity crisis. Who am I? What am I doing? Yeah, it's so confronting. And it's like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing, trying to follow this thing that people call intuition, trying not to, honor my thoughts, not trying, but really going to work on not honoring my thoughts and honoring the things that I said that I would do in language. So what I had created out here in conversation. And, so much confront in for so long as kids, we were told that, certain emotions we're all individually different, right? I grew up in a household of 4 boys, and the male culture in Australia is that, and probably all around the world, right, is that men showing any signs of sadness even from a young age, is deemed like really shameful. So, yeah, identity crisis, trying not to become overwhelmed. Yeah, I totally get it. And that's the thing too, is like I grew up in that environment. Men, feeling shame for, my four brothers feeling shame for expressing themselves emotionally, especially when they were sad. They would shame each other. They would get into fights. There'd be so much like, and when I say shame, I mean the reaction to other people, the reaction from other people when they get upset is like, what's wrong with you? Not that it's okay, that there's actually something wrong with them. So toughen up, princess. I even like remember as a young kid being on the handlebars of my older brother's bike, and we were riding down a hill, and my shoelace got caught in the spokes, and I was ripped on underneath the bike, grazed both of my elbows, all of my knees, and down my shins. And all of his friends were there, a couple of girls that I knew but weren't really friends with. They're all a little bit older than I was. And I remember my brother being so embarrassed by me crying that he said, "Get up, go home. You're embarrassing me." Like, he was so offended that I was upset. And I was just say that's, now I know that that's just a part of that shame. And so having people hold space for emotions is amazing for self and others. Yes, it is. I agree with you, Sky. That is why I have a group of predominantly men. My BestLife group are all men currently. And I love holding a space for them where I allow them to just unleash themselves. And, it's getting there. They're still in that space. I can tell you, they're still holding back. It's because, like, we've been conditioned into believing that even as a woman, right, being and growing up in that space, I told myself that it was weak to cry, that there's shame behind even feeling emotions of anger, because you're not supposed to experience those things in that conditioning. And, the women in my family are supposed to be nice and soft and, Catholic, which is how I grew up. Women are supposed to make the bed and take care of the man. And I grew up being like, F that. I don't want to do that. So, yeah, baby steps. And so really where I'm going with that is I started to notice those things coming up for me even recently, right? The feelings of guilt, feelings of shame for feeling really down, and suppression from not being able to really express myself, and it's not anyone else's doing but my own, really. I'm over here with my thoughts instead of being able to articulate what I really want to say or what I want to ask for. So it's like my suppression of self. And I think conscious conversations, this is an amazing space where anyone can come in and you can have a conversation about your own thoughts, no matter how crazy they may seem, or how boring you may seem even, because I know that when people think that they're boring, it holds them back. It really does hold people back from being able to share themselves and what they're dealing with. They compare themselves and pedestal other people's experiences from their own. Makes me sad for the lack of experience of real joy, freedom, and empowerment. Yeah, Sky, yeah, definitely. And there is that lack, because without some kind of awareness of your own self, how are you able to really break through cycles that happen for you that were conditioned in you that you aren't even aware of? And by the way, take us back 8 years ago, before I had started any self-development, I would not be someone who could hear the words conditioning, enlightenment, self-development. I just thought, screw that. That sounds like brainwashing. And I thought for sure that people were just being brainwashed and there was something in the water. So I was like, it's a no from me. And now here I am, conscious conversations, really wanting people to express and really wanting to go there and have people know that everybody has crazy thoughts. Everybody feels suppressed or entrapped in their own minds and their own bodies at one stage in your life. And if you think that, or if you say to yourself, which is a thought, if you say to yourself, nope, I've never experienced that, well, I have you consider that that is also a part of your conditioning, is telling yourself that you are different from everybody else is a part of your conditioning, and my conditioning, by the way. This sense of being special and individual and separate from others. And there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. It's just a majority of the time, we are definitely not present to it. Jennifer, brainwashing. Yeah, brainwashing. That is exactly what I thought self-development was before I had done any programs, courses, read any books. I was like, this is all brainwashing crap. And it is, and I'm glad it is. It washed my brain up real good. It needed a bit of washing. So here we are. Sky says, when I found out that babies who die don't go to heaven, it was a no from me. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, there's a lot of different beliefs out there. And I'm not here to pick on anybody's beliefs. I'm not here to say that one person's beliefs are better than another, that one thing doesn't make sense, so we shouldn't believe it. I really am here to just be in the discovery of something else. And I really want to I am having these conversations because I think they're important for where we're at in humanity right now. And I am okay with the opinions and the thoughts that people might have about me. And, you know, even this week, I hear that people don't take me seriously. And I had to like be with that for a day. My conditioning and my identity, you know, there's part of me that's really reactive and kind of like, screw everybody. That part of me was like, I just want to throw it all in the bin. I just want to, you know, quit everything, because what's the point if people don't even know who I am? People don't even, you know, trust that I'm here to make a difference, not for my own agenda. And then I just keep coming back to conditioning. You know, we're all so used to everyone else having an agenda that the moment that we authentically just want to create something because we love to make a difference and impact others in a way that changes their lives, the moment we do that, we even start questioning ourselves. You know, oh, maybe I do have an agenda. Oh, yeah. You know, maybe this could make me a lot of money, and then people will think that I'm just a selfish cunt. And for those of you that don't like that word, I apologize. Sometimes it slips out. But really, that's really what goes on in my head, is like, maybe people will really think that I am just a fraud. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with people not taking me seriously, because I take my message very seriously. And I wouldn't do the work that I do, and I wouldn't put up with, and I wouldn't be expanding and feeling this uncomfort for nothing. So Sky said, no, shit, my brain needed a good effing clean. Me too. And Jennifer, is it about them? Do you want to elaborate on that question, lovely? Is it about them? Sky's defending me. So, so is it about them? You look, the more I look at being someone who is out there challenging my own beliefs, looking at my own thoughts, my own conditioning patterns, noticing my own reactions, being accountable for my own, you know, what's happening in my own environment, how reality shows up for me, I have to be accountable and responsible for all of it. And the only reason I would want to do that is because I am here to serve others. And by servicing others and being there for others and being able to make a difference to others, it really does make a difference to me in return. Because when you think of consciousness and you think of, nothing is separate from yourself, really, you're doing yourself a service. So when you said people think you are a fraud, is it about them? Yeah, that's an interesting question, Jennifer. So when people think that, that you're a fraud, well, when people think that I'm a fraud, I always see things, and this doesn't always occur instantly, by the way. I don't ever want to come on here and do a live and start sharing and for people to think that I'm better than them or that I must be smarter than them. No. So I really want to express, what things are like for me, because this is my reality and this is the way that I see the world and this is my view. So I believe when someone thinks that I'm a fraud or someone doesn't take me seriously, it's a complete reflection of themselves. So if someone doesn't take me seriously and they think that I'm a fraud, there's something inside of them that is activated or reactivated when they are around me or when they see me showing up. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with there's a part of themselves that they haven't accepted that gets reactivated when I'm around. So being with that for a minute, because it happens to me all the time, by the way. I even had a conversation where a guy was being really direct and very in my face. And I ended up, he was coming across as very superior, very like he's smarter than I am, that I must be beneath him. All of this stuff, was occurring for me in my reality. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy really does think that he is the bee's knees. And instantly I had cut him off, energetically, if you could call it an energetic thread, I had cut that thread. I was like, I do not want to be associated with an asshole. And instead of really acknowledging what was there for me, which was, I don't like the way that you're talking to me. And I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, but it is really upsetting. And I don't want to associate with you if you're going to speak to me like that. So what's really going on here? Are you actually doing that on purpose? Or is this something that I'm making up in my own head because you must remind me of someone or I'm reactivated somehow? So instead of doing that and being responsible for how my reality occurs for me, instead I was like, screw this guy. I was like, cut that thread. And he, and we pretty much haven't contacted since. And so I know what is there, right, is for me to really look at how I can have ownership of how people occur for me. And if someone thinks that I'm a fraud, if someone doesn't take me seriously, that's okay. They don't have to. They really don't. People don't have to take me seriously. People don't have to think that that I'm a genius. People don't have to think that I'm influencing anything or making any kind of a difference, because it doesn't impact me. Because from my perspective and my view of myself is that I am. And that I am someone who's out there making an impact. That I am someone, because I see the results in my life, right? There is a difference between talking the talk and walking the walk. Probably heard that before. Practice what you preach, but it's like, I am not going out there coaching or mentoring people into having this incredible life and making all these amazing changes and, repairing their relationships and getting connected to blah, blah, blah. I'm not going out there and doing that without having then applying it to my own life. I'm constantly working on my relationships in my life. It's an ongoing journey. I'm always having conversations that confront the F out of me. I'm expanding in business. I am expanding as an individual. I challenge my own beliefs. I have these conversations where I show up live and I don't even know really what to talk about. I wanted these conversations to be, I have my own expectations too, by the way. I wanted these conversations to be, like webinar style, where people would jump on and have a discussion about these topics, and it would be so juicy and raw. And then I don't put any work in for it to happen, and then I kind of get like, oh, it's just me. So I'm not a perfect human being. And, I promote as well. I actually encourage people to show up even when they're not perfect, to show up in their full human expression. And like, even a couple of people had noticed that I'm not well at the moment. I've been sick the last couple of days. I'm very low energy. I'm really tired. I am exercising. I'm eating well. I'm drinking a lot of water. I've even got my own elixir going, which is lemon, ginger, honey, a little bit of cinnamon, all of these things going on, right? Peppermint as well, eating a lot of peppermint, drinking a lot of peppermint tea. But I'm a human being. I'm not superhuman, and I don't need fixing or changing. I will still jump on here and I will still share because I said that I would, and this is the reality that I created. And, and so there's like, we all have our blocks. I'm not perfect. And this is me showing up in I hate to say this word because I actually don't think this exists really. Even perfection for me doesn't exist. But the imperfection, people keep saying, oh, show up in your imperfection, because that would suggest that there is an imperfection, and there isn't. If you were really to look at perfection from a conscious point of view, without conditioning, without the idea that the media instills in how we should and shouldn't look, what we should and shouldn't do, who we should and shouldn't be in society, if you removed all that, what does perfect actually suggest? And I don't know if anyone can actually answer that question, but I believe perfection, everyone's perfect. We were all born whole, complete, and perfect. And then somewhere along the way, we started to decide all these other things about ourselves. So Jennifer, for that situation, do you see that we are all connected and he just not in a space to be able to see the bigger picture? Yeah, Jennifer, look, I don't know about, I get the first part. I think that we are always all connected. Now, I think we're always all connected, and I think sometimes, even for myself, there are moments in life where we aren't present. And if you aren't actively working on, and looking at what your reactions are, what your thoughts are, if you don't know your value system, you don't know your beliefs, if you don't know where they came from, then you aren't going to be present to those things. And therefore, you aren't going to be present again to that you are whole, complete, and perfect, and you're connected to everything and everybody on this planet. And we are perfect in our imperfection. Yeah, well, that even suggests that imperfection doesn't exist, right? It's like all of these funny words that we make up. And there's something that I wanted to really explore tonight inside of expanding consciousness on the planet, because this comes up, this is even a belief that I see a lot of people are taking up right now about this new way of humanity. And I just want to speak to that for a minute, right? The new way of humanity. Now, there has been so much happening in the media and so much, so much protest, so much sadness, so much hate. It's so much confusion and mistrust. And there's all of these things being released. And as a society, people keep saying that these things are bringing us together. But when you take a step back, they really just separate us in our individuality. They separate us through culture. They separate us through, how we look. They separate us for our beliefs, what we believe in. They separate us. Even right now in the spiritual community, I notice a separation between people that, a separation between people that are conscious and people that are unconscious. Like, that actually exists. No one is unconscious, by the way. You would not be human and even animal if you were unconscious. So inside of that, and again, this is speaking from my belief. These are my beliefs. And anyone that is welcome to share their own, you can do. I'm okay with that. But I do notice there is a huge separation between those that are considered to be, the enlightened human beings versus those that are still living in a modern world, anyone in Byron Bay versus anyone in Brisbane City. It's like there is a separation, and we keep telling ourselves that we're connected because, we have formed this type of community that suggests that we belong somewhere, when in reality, we formed a community to disconnect ourselves from the rest of society. And by the way, I did this, right? I did Landmark Forum. That was one of my first self-development, one of my first self-development courses. And I did participate in their programs. I still do. I love their programs. And this is nothing against them. And I still notice it in this culture, is that as human beings, to feel this sense of belonging, we end up creating separation as a way to connect. So it's like, I fit in with these people because I belong here, and these people get me and they understand me. These people over here, they don't get me. So I just disagree with that kind of, I disagree with those people. Is that a cult, Landmark? No. Jennifer. Well, a lot of people do say it is, but that wasn't my experience. Again, this is all down to awareness, funny enough. But no, not from what I had experienced, Jennifer. I could leave whenever I wanted to, and there was no rituals. So there was no sacrifices or rituals going on in that course. So ultimately, these conversations aren't to answer anyone's questions. We get so busy at wanting all the answers and having all the knowledge, and this is actually something that's prevented me from having these conversations. I'm like, Emily, you haven't done this degree and that degree, and you're not like Tom Fort's Mayer who knows everything. I start telling myself, and I compare myself to people that have more knowledge than I do, more knowledge, more and more and more knowledge, people that have done and spent more money in self-development courses, other people that have read more books than I have, and constantly comparing where I am versus anybody else that's showing up online as an influencer. I'm like, oh my God, just throw the towel on the ground and leave it there. When you get, you chop it all back, I want to have these conversations because it's okay. We're all actually playing the same game. And whether you have different values, different beliefs, whether your upbringing was different, whether you are someone that does believe in segregation to connect, separating to connect, that's fine. This isn't about the answers to what the world needs. This is about, let's explore what happens on us, inside of us, at a micro level, and then let's look at, no wonder, what's happening on the macro level of life. I'm just going to read some comments. So we got, just putting it out there to challenge thoughts. Awesome, Jennifer. I love a good challenge. Dinner's in the oven, garlic cob and honey soy chicken nibbles. Tom is very humble. So money and self-development is not going to mean they better or more enlightened. Exactly. And less money, more money, more books, less books, more knowledge, less knowledge, better hair, worse hair, more clothes, less clothes, bigger, shorter, fatter, thinner, whiter, blacker, doesn't matter. It's like, it does not matter, because these comparisons at the end of the day, even the community comparisons that we have, more enlightened, less enlightened, more raw, more vegan, less vegan, all of it. It's like, how do we just be? How is life? How do we create life? And there's no answer. This is a statement, not a question. These are thoughts that I have, that I start to like look at in life, not to find answers, but to be in the discovery of something. Less clothes is what Sky says. Yeah, it would have been pretty hard to hide anything personal going on if you had less clothes. So that's one solution. So it's like being in the discovery of all of these juicy questions. What really ultimately brings us together, and we strip down all of the conditioning, we strip down the beliefs, we strip down the values, we strip down the past experiences, the he said, she said, the opinions, the reactions. We strip it all down, the expectations, and then we come back to, we are all just human beings. Ooh. We're all just human beings. And we're all living out this human being experience on Earth. Whether you agree or disagree with that, you know, I do have friends that call themselves aliens. That's okay. Human aliens. So we get to strip it down, and we just get to come back to, let's look at life from the perspective that this is a human experience. What are we going to do with it? What do we want to experience in life? Who do you want to be? You get to create it. We are all just empty space and stardust. I love that. I love it. Yeah, even looking scientifically, right? We're all like just atoms and energy and light combined. That's pretty extraordinary. And then, you know, we have this thing that we call consciousness. And even consciousness is a way for us to discern who we are in this world. So I actually heard a really amazing quote in a documentary last week. And my empty space and stardust is intense. You have a beautiful intensity, Sky. Nothing wrong with your intensity. I love it. Empty space and stardust is intense. Yeah, so is mine. Probably why people don't take me seriously, because I like to enjoy myself. Ooh, funny that. And I'm giggly and I'm bubbly. And I create myself to be this way because this is the way that I enjoy life. So if people don't take me seriously, that's probably because they're not enjoying life. I'm just going to say that. Maybe. But anyway, I heard this amazing quote in a documentary last week. And it wasn't really like one of those like poetic quotes. It had me really think, though. And he was talking about the spiritual journey, the journey to enlightenment, the journey of killing the ego, which is going to be another topic, by the way, in Conscious Conversations, the death of the ego. It's a very interesting topic. One that I love to talk about, and that reactivates the shit out of a lot of people. So let's dig into that next week. But, you know, he was talking about death of the ego, spiritual enlightenment, this, you know, this journey to self-discovery. everyone's on this journey to get to the most awakened sense of our energetic being. All of that nice. Sounds fabulous. And here I am, like, no, get into the rawness of being human. Really express and experience your humanity for what it is. Because it's all this beautiful, chaotic, delicious bundle of craziness. And so he says, I look at all of this stuff happening in the spiritual community. He's like, and these ideas that there is a place of enlightenment to reach, and there's somewhere to get with consciousness. And yeah, just guy. And he said, this, I'll never forget this. He said, because human seems less than, full stop. Because human seems less than. And when I thought about that, I was like, yeah, even though on my own conscious journey, discovering and exploring my own thoughts, my own beliefs, values, la-di-da-di-da, I'm like, there has to be somewhere to get. I have to be better than I am today. There's something I got to tap into with my energy to have me really beam above the sky, like all of these, get off it. It's like all of this BS that I tell myself because I almost like, and I know that I'm not the only one, but this is where I'm at in my own discovery, and it's a constant discovery, is human being less than, not being enough. Why is it not enough in this experience that we have being gifted? Why is it not enough for us to just be human beings? And the moment that we can just own our own humanity and really get that we're human beings here, and this is our own discovery, how do we do life without having to be anything more than that? It's like there really is like some kind of expectation that we need to be something more than human. And Kelsey, I want to be better, and sometimes that's frustrating. Yeah, it is frustrating. I totally get it. Every single day I tell myself, you got to be better than you were. I have a moment where I'm upset or I get frustrated with someone or myself, and then I beat myself up for being frustrated or upset with myself or someone else. Yeah, a lot of judgy Jennies that can't hold space for others sometimes, and that can be hard. Yeah, I get it. And, people are going to judge. I judge. I know that, Kelsey, you probably judge. You probably judge. You do. Survival. And inside of survival, our brains go and look for the people that are safe, the people that aren't. And the only way to do that is to put them through a judgment system. What if we just let that be okay? What if it was okay that we just judged people? I judge people all the time. I judge myself all the time. Now, in saying that, this guy, I need to meditate for 3 days because she judges. Yeah, because then we beat ourselves up for being human. It's human to judge. Let's touch slightly on the death of the ego. The ego has a really important part to play in your human experience. It does. And it's like these mechanisms that we have, because we have a brain, and so therefore we have mechanisms. And what I'm saying when I say mechanisms is parts of us that judge, the parts of us that even fear judgment, the thoughts that we have about ourselves and about others, the reactions that we have that are like present in our body, The reaction is like crying. The reaction is like shaking when we're frustrated. I shake when I'm frustrated. My face goes red too when I'm really embarrassed. My face goes red, gives it away slightly straight away. It's like, there it is. No, ego doesn't need to die. We just need to be okay with it. It's there. And it's all a great, juicy part of this human experience. And being frustrated, Kelsey, and being upset and angry is just as important and relevant as being joyful and happy and having pleasure. And, you know, even like in a lot of courses that I do, it talks about positive thinking, you know, and it's like it shuts out negative thinking. But that's like putting it in a box and storing it away and compressing it for it to just explode later. So I am not someone who encourages positive thinking and only positive reactions and thoughts. I am a bubbly person. I love to have a laugh. I love to have fun. Don't get me wrong, there are still times, and I'm going to start showing them up on social media because I notice a lot of people don't see that side of me. And it's a huge part of what I embody and what I want to encourage other people to express in the world is to be okay with these types of humanity, to be okay with the frustration, to accept it about yourself. Fuck, you know, I'm frustrated. Oh shit, yeah, look at me go. You know, like what would it be like if we could just be okay with it? Yeah, what is positive, negative? It's still a part of it. Positive, negative is a part of that mechanism. Survival. You know, is this situation safe or not? I don't know. Positive, negative, con or pro. Will I die? Pretty much is what your brain is constantly asking. Is this situation safe enough so that I don't die? Because it's in your brain and it's relevant. There are circumstances that your brain has saved you from. Yeah, that was me, the Savo. Yeah. Yeah. And then there comes in this conscious piece. And you know what I love about conscious conversations is that when we strip it all back and we have these you can have these conversations with anyone because everybody has a consciousness. And everybody has thoughts. Everybody has feelings. Everybody reactivates. Those people that think that they're the most enlightened and they don't have any of that, well, they need to have these conversations more than anybody else. And it's also okay that they think that too. It's very okay to notice the self when you are having either pros or cons or anger or joy and be okay with it all. Exactly. Just be okay with it all. And there's another quote so I'm going to drop in the comments to this documentary that I watched if anyone is interested in looking at separation from, not separation from, but having a look at what it might feel like or how it might be experienced if we were to really separate ourselves from our conditioning. And at least that's what I got from this documentary. And he says freedom is experienced when we are okay with all of it. It's pretty much what Jennifer's just said. When we are okay with all of it in our environment, all of the humanity, all of the circumstances, when we can just be okay with all of it, all of what's happening inside of us, that is when we get freedom. So it's an interesting concept to play around with, but no need to label things as negative or positive. In my opinion, there's only helpful and less helpful. I love that. Helpful and less helpful versus negative and positive. I love how you just took that and just put it in your own words. Sky, you cracked me up. And I'm not laughing at you. I just laugh because I know I do the same thing. You know, I even just contradicted myself. I even just said, oh, there are people out there that think that they don't have these experiences and they need to have this conversation. They don't need this conversation. Everyone's on their own journey. And it is for me to just be aware of my own journey. Opinions are that just opinions because we are language-based communicators. We are. That is the most beautiful thing about language is so much is created, so much experience is created in what I'm saying and how it's received. So I did go and practice language for a few years and I was really rigorous with what I would say. And then I realized that it really suppressed my expression. And the piece is not to be rigorous and careful about what I'm saying, but rather be responsible for what I'm saying. So if I say something and it lands for someone in a way that really reactivates them, triggers them, I can be responsible, not apologetic. I can be responsible for something that I've said that has reactivated something within them. It's not me that reactivated them, but it's something that's come out of my mouth. I hear other people say helpful and unhelpful, but I don't think there is ever unhelpful. There's plenty of nonverbal communications. Yes, definitely. So, amazing conversation. As you can tell, I could talk about this. So many topics that live inside of this too. But ultimately, this is just a discussion for what it is to be a human being. Now, I probably could have written that as the title, but I don't care. This is Conscious Conversations, the ultimate discussion, the ultimate platform to be able to talk about what it is to be a human being and to really experience humanity for yourself. Now, I do really feel so full up when I even get that for myself. I'm like, wow, this is just an experience for me. Contributing, serving others. It's just an experience that my soul is on this journey to discover and to see really what it takes. And there's nowhere to get. And just to be on the journey when you bump up against things, deal with them. Yeah, sometimes I hate being human. There's something, Kelsey, that you really resist about yourself. Something that I would even suggest you deny, or there's something that I can hear it in your comments, it's like there's something about you that you think shouldn't be. Yeah. And what I'm saying in this conversation is, how do we be with even those things that we think shouldn't be within ourselves, that do exist, that we deny, that we suppress? How do we just love and accept those things for just its own humanity? Yeah, deep-seated shame. That's something that I've been bumping up against this week too. It's like this embedded shame. And the more that I look at it and the more that I talk about it, Kelsey, the more I realize it's not just me. Which then I think to myself, is it my shame? Because it's shared. And you and I have had different experiences. We have different upbringings, different thoughts. And yet we share things like wounds. Sky is saying, my main question is, and it's probably a whole topic in itself, what is the illusion of separation? Why is there an assumption that it is an illusion? If we are all connected, How? What does that mean? Ooh, love it. Yeah, that first question, Sky, that's those first two questions, I can definitely create that into a topic, because that there really definitely is a whole world to those two questions. And even the third one ties into it with connecting how, if we're all connected, how? What does that mean? I hear a lot about the scientific explanations behind how we're connected energetically. And yeah, it's all illusion. And I hear all these amazing theories about how, you're a projection of me and I'm a projection of you. And consciousness is not individual to ourselves, but yet it is one thing. Consciousness being one thing, not an entity, but something that connects all of us. And I'm not talking about our individual thoughts. Yeah, the tree of life. So it's like we are all seeds in this one pot, connected through, connected from the soil. You know what I mean? So these are just concepts, right? I'm just talking conceptually for anyone that's jumped on and they're like, is Emily taking ayahuasca? What is going on? Is there magic mushrooms in her room? I don't get it. So I'm just making sure everyone knows these are conceptual conversations. These are discoveries, things that could be, that I don't have the answers to, and I love that you're asking questions and we get to dive into these topics deeper. And I'm getting Tom back on the show. He's interested in coming back, and we're going to be talking more about self, because I thought that was really beneficial, and there was a lot of juice to that. I need ayahuasca. I haven't tried that, actually. No, I think my brain is already a little bit wired. I'm already connected to the ether, I think. Yeah, it is. There's elements of DMT inside of ayahuasca, I think. Anyway, I don't know much about it, but I do hear some great things. So ultimately, to wrap this conversation up tonight, the global expansion of consciousness here on this planet Earth, I believe, and I am looking into the discovery of, expansion exists within a discovery, kind of like inception, right? Discovering the discovery. So more and more things are going to surface for you, and then more things are going to surface for me. Like Kelsey sharing about how she's digging into this frustration and this unacceptance of being human. And I believe that we all have a version of that actually is deep down something that we're not expressing. So I think it takes a lot of courage, and thank you, Kelsey, for sharing that. Sometimes I am, and sometimes logic takes over. Yeah. And we do constantly try to rationalize the things that we're discovering about ourselves. Sometimes they are irrational. Sometimes this shame that we have, we can't pinpoint a certain circumstance. We can't pinpoint a belief or a value that could exist for this shame to actually even be real, but it's just there. And I think consciousness, being able to expand on the planet, is being okay with all of it and just continually discovering, what it is and what it takes to really express yourself as a human being on this planet. And that is the discovery and the journey that I'm on. And I invite you to, you've already really been invited. If you're in Conscious Conversations group, you've already been invited on this journey. You're already someone who is actively in your life looking at how to really express your own humanity and how to be okay and have it all be okay around you. And if you haven't watched my live with Tom, I do recommend going and watching that live, because I share and I express parts of my own humanity that had been suppressed for a really long time, because of a circumstance. Sorry, I burped. A circumstance that happened with Jess, my housemate, last week. And so if you missed that, then go back and watch the replay. I do share, that circumstance, and when I got to reflect on it, how much I had suppressed rage and how much I suppressed sadness within myself. And so the only way that I got to see that was for someone that I love and someone I care about very deeply, being my housemate, was experiencing rage and sadness, and I couldn't be with it. I got reactivated and I got sad and instantly had severed my connection to her. And this is all automatic. This was all very automatic. I did not decide that I couldn't deal with it. It was like my body and my mind had taken over. And so now let's talk. Let's have these conversations, because there's nothing wrong with those moments. Nothing wrong with those reactions. And there's nothing wrong with not being able to handle shame. Nothing wrong with not being able to know how to just continuously live via joy. Nothing wrong with you because you're not this enlightened human being. You are, by the way, but nothing wrong with the fact you don't think you are. So thank you, Sky, Kelsey. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jess, for all of you that had jumped on and have been commenting. Thank you if you have been watching in the background, Nicole, if you were still on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating in this journey and this conversation. And I really do invite you to invite your friends that you think might really enjoy or get a lot out of these conversations. Anybody that you think are on this journey that need community, please invite them to join Conscious Conversations group on Facebook. And let's just watch as the journey continues. Emily Kate here, and I am signing out, wishing you all a very good night, and love you all heaps. Mwah, 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 mwah. See ya.